believe it or not, people want to go back to using real drummers.
Jeff Porcaro is a legendary figure in the drum world, revered for his unparalleled skill, versatility, and musicality. He was a founding member of the band Toto and one of the most recorded session musicians in history, working with legendary artists and bands like Sonny and Cher, Steely Dan, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and many others. Porcaro's groove, timing, and innovative techniques launched him to the forefront of the music scene in the 70s and 80s, earning him a widespread acclaim and numerous accolades. As a true pioneer of his craft, his drumming continues to influence generations of drummers around the world. Join us as we dive into the genius of Jeff Porcaro.
From left to right, Jeff, Mike, and Steve. Porcaro, P-O-C-A-R-O. P-O-R-C-A-R-O, right?
Born into a family deeply entrenched in the music industry, it seems as though Jeff was destined for greatness. His father Joe was a renowned jazz drummer and educator.
I'm Joe Porcaro. Today we're going to explore some of the many facets of playing jazz.
And his two brothers, Mike and Steve, were accomplished bass and keyboard players, playing alongside Jeff and Toto, and forging their own successful careers as session musicians. Growing up in such a musical household, Jeff displayed a natural talent from an early age.
But I remember as a kid, Jeff, he was in his crib. My wife and I are listening to Miles Davis. He could sing his solo.
He began taking lessons with his father in his Connecticut studio on weekends and sought out private instructors throughout his time in middle and high school. He joined several bands during this time, with his brother Steve recalling, even back in junior high school, he had that deep pocket. I mean, at one point in the school band, they had two drummers. One was the flashy soloist, but Jeff, you know, he was laying it down. And really, the drums were all about serving the music for Jeff. He'd spend hours listening and playing to his favorite songs during this time.
All I did is listen to records. I don't read real well, and all I would do is imitate. Watch guys, listen to guys. I would sit at home 5 hours a day after school, put on headphones. And I used to love mimicking styles of different drummers and whatnot. He and Jim Keltner were my idols. Ever since I was 13, man, I used to follow this guy around. And he was the #1 studio drummer in this town for years. Nobody's drums sounded better. Nobody grooved better than this guy.
Jeff's first recording gig as a professional came out of a rehearsal band headed by Jack Dougherty. You can even hear him double drumming with his hero, Jim Keltner. Soon after his work with Jack Dougherty came a job with Sonny and Cher, which launched Jeff into the world of pop music. You could already hear his deep pocket on tracks like It Never Rains in Southern California.
All of the talk about those TV breaks and
Jeff had a way of making seemingly simple grooves feel and sound great. His right hand was used for more than simple timekeeping. It was employed to add texture through a subtle use of dynamics.
bury the bottle, mama. It's grapefruit wine. Kick off your high heel sneakers. It's party time. The girls don't seem to care.
When I played just the eighth notes on the hi-hat, it wasn't like I just played them the same dynamic, real stiff. I put kind of an interlope to it.
He'd also embellish grooves in unique and subtle ways, what Jeff would call the in-between stuff.
The stuff that most of the time you don't hear, that should be, it's the undercurrent, little grooves, like the little tiny things, Rosanna, or the little grace notes and the little subtleties that happen between the drums. You gotta hear those, because those do magic to a groove too.
Jeff would experiment with different variations and interpretations of a rhythm. You can hear this on display in the song Mushanga, which is one of the most intricate drum parts that Jeff recorded. Jeff's unique drum part for the song played a huge role in the creation of the song. In an interview with Robin Flans, he said, "I knew what the thing was going to be, but I wanted to think of a new beat for me, something different. I didn't want one of those situations where after I heard what I did, it ends up that I stole it or I'd heard it before in some sort of context. It was fun doing that beat. Now that I know it, I wish we could cut the track again. It was one of those things where I had to figure out the sticking a certain way. There are no overdubs." So all the drumless tracks and note for note transcriptions are available for you on Drumeo. You can even sound better than this guy if you actually dive in and learn all the stuff we're not even talking about in this video, but it's all there for you. You can loop the sections, you can practice, and you can have all that good stuff. So drumeo.com/trial. You can try Drumeo out free for 7 days. Let's get back to the video so this guy will shut up. With so much knowledge being applied behind the kit, you would think that Jeff had formal training in music. But he never did, and his sight reading skills were limited.
Like a few times Zappa has called me to do sessions and I've turned him down. And he thinks maybe I'm busy or something, but I'm just scared to death because I know guys like Vinny and Bozio and whatnot, and I've known them for years and I've seen what they have to sight read. Zappa would tear me apart. He'd get PO'd for me wasting his time.
What he lacked in theory, he made up for with his listening skills, precision, and innate sense of musicality. The way he approached playing 16th notes was influenced by this, and Jeff preferred playing them with one hand.
I like the single-handed method because it's a lot smoother feel. The reason I say so, the more you develop it, it helps with the execution of 16ths and up-tempo things.
According to Mike McDonald, when it came to Jeff's drumming in the studio, 100 drummers could have played the same thing, but not that way.
I tried doing the alternating stroke method of doing 16ths, and it sounded just too stiff and staccato for me. Compared to
I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore. I keep forgetting things will never be the same again. I keep forgetting how you made that so clear. I keep forgetting now. Every time you're near.
On the surface, the grooves we've looked at so far seem pretty straightforward, but in reality, they require so much finesse and feel to execute at Jeff's level. Steve Lukather once said, "There were lots of guys who played faster or with more chops, but there is no living soul alive who played a groove like that. It's all finesse. It's that little extra something. You either have it or you don't. He was touched by God when he was born." Much like his ability to play 16th notes with one hand, Jeff developed a foot technique that works for him with a surprising origin story.
goes back to when I was a young kid, first learning to play drums. I couldn't reach my dad's pedal, so I play with my toes, basically, and the ball of my foot. I guess you could say I dance on the pedals, and I like to slide up into my pedal.
In addition to Jeff's deep sense of groove, deep pocket, and technical proficiency, he was also incredibly versatile, able to pull from a variety of genres at any given time. Jeff's shuffles became a signature part of his playing, even though apparently he hated to play them at the beginning of his career.
I hate shuffles. On the Katy Light album, the tune Black Friday, I played it twice and I threw my sticks down, and I was 19 years old. I was like flipped out. I threw my sticks down, I walked out of the studio, and I walked around the block twice. I know what a shuffle's supposed to feel like because I love hearing guys who play shuffles good. And I'm here listening to myself play, and I just couldn't stand hearing myself because I knew it wasn't swinging. So I went up to Fagan and I said, look, get some other drummer to play this song, man. Get somebody who really knows a shuffle. And they got pissed at me and they said, no, you play it. And I came back in mad and I did that track. And after I did that track, people started expecting me to play shuffles.
You can hear him lay down a tight shuffle in Boz Scaggs' track, Lido Shuffle. And according to Scaggs, it sounds simple, but it's really not easy to execute. In a 1983 interview with Robin Flans, Jeff explained that the beat I used on Lido Shuffle is the same thing Jim Gordon did, except at twice the tempo. There's no originality there. A drummer's own style comes from eventually being on his own, but I copied Gordon and Jim Keltner and all these guys I dug. I remember realizing this, but after a while, the accumulation of all these guys you copy becomes your own thing, hopefully. But most famously, Jeff was known for his halftime shuffle as heard on these tracks. And of course, we can't talk about Porcaro shuffles without mentioning his legendary halftime shuffle from the song Rosanna.
All I wanna do when I wake up in the morning is see you light. Rosanna, Rosanna.
I stole that beat from listening to two records. One was Home at Last and Babylon Sisters, which is Bernard Purdie, Steely Dan records. Another is the John Bonham on A Fool in the Rain, a Led Zeppelin tune. Putting those two beats together, I came up with my own little kind of hybrid. I added the Bo Diddley figure. It's a shuffle Bo Diddley figure.
Let's take a look at how the groove is played on the Toto 4 record, which has one less bass drum note than what Jeff demos in the Star Licks video. And on the topic of Rosanna, we can't overlook one of Jeff's most memorable drum fills, where he accents the last note of each triplet grouping.
Hi, we're Toto. I'm Jeff Porcaro.
I'm Michael Porcaro.
And I'm David Page.
Toto was formed in 1977 in Los Angeles. After growing up together and years of playing music together as session musicians, they recruited David Hungate on bass, Steve Lukather on guitar, and Jeff's brother Steve before the release of their first album in 1978. The band name reflected Jeff's wide range of musical interests.
Our name comes from the Latin term in toto, et toto, et totus, which means all-encompassing, all.
The fact that most of the band members knew each other from an early age was a big reason for their sustained success over the years.
The nucleus of this band knew each other since they were children. Children don't lie to each other when they're young, so as you grow older, I think it's a good advantage to have that you know each other, how do I say, it's very honestly and openly.
The band announced itself on the scene in a big way with their self-titled album in 1978. In the track Georgie Porgy, which is heavily influenced by all the Maurice and Freddie White stuff, you can hear Jeff's trademark one-handed 16th note groove. Jeff once said that when it comes to that groove, my biggest influences were Paul Humphrey, Ed Green, Earl Palmer, and the godfather of that 16th note groove, James Gadson. That Georgie Porgy groove I owe to them.
It's not your situation, I just need contemplation over you.
But the breakout hit of the album was undoubtedly their debut single, Hold the Line, reaching number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Jeff cites Greg Errico from Sly and the Family Stone as a huge influence for this drum part. It features a triplet feel on the hi-hat with a driving bass drum pattern in the verse. And a 4 on the floor groove in the chorus that maintains the triplet feel. And off the same record, the song Child's Anthem is another great example of Jeff playing in a triplet feel, this time on the toms. Over the next 3 years, the band released 2 further albums called Hydra and Turn Back. And even though they weren't as well received as the debut album, they do feature some real gems, especially in terms of Jeff's drumming, like on the song St. George and the Dragon.
I can tell by the look in your eye, you better watch yourself. St. George is coming this way.
And off the same record, we can hear the band totally switch gears for the track 99, which features a more soulful vibe, again showcasing Jeff's trademark single-handed 16th note groove.
99, I've been waiting so long. Oh, 99, were we the wrong? Oh, 99.
Turn Back also has some standout moments from Jeff Porcaro, from a more driving, hard rock-inspired track like Live for Today, through to a trademark Porcaro shuffle at a fast tempo on the track Goodbye Eleanor.
Wanna give her something she'll remember. What she said.
And fast forwarding towards the end of the track, there's a rare instance of Jeff playing some busier drum fills on record. The band really hit their stride with their 4th album, Toto 4, which launched the band to global stardom. Africa is a standout track that blends genres and percussive elements from around the world. It even features Jeff's dad, Joe, on the bass marimba, and the popularity of the track actually came as a surprise to the band.
We thought we'd had the whole album. I mean, if I listen to the rest of the cuts, I go, boy, we really have it covered with the rock singles and all this.
Creating the drum loop as the foundation for the song, Jeff explained, so there was bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat, 2 congas, a cowbell, and a shaker. We went back in, cut the tape, and made a 1-bar tape loop that went round and round and round. The Lin machine was available to us. Maybe it would have taken 2 minutes to program that in the Lin, and it took about half an hour to do this, but a Lin machine doesn't feel like that, so we had an analog groove.
He turned to me as if to say.
This track features some iconic drum fills that were overdubbed over Jeff's drum loop. The album is incredibly diverse when it comes to different styles of music. It includes the track Waiting for Your Love, which features a catchy dance groove, as well as I Won't Hold You Back, a soulful ballad driven by keys and guitar, again showcasing Jeff's restraint and musical touch. When the dust settled, Toto 4 received 3 Grammy Awards in 1983. This was also the final album with the original Toto lineup, with David Hungate and vocalist Bobby Kimball leaving the band before recording the next album, Isolation, in 1984. While the vocals were different, Jeff's tasteful drumming remained, as heard in the track Stranger in Town, where he lays down a solid backbeat groove. Following this, the band got involved in some other projects, like writing the Dune soundtrack and also writing the theme song for the 1984 Olympics, which remains a classic largely due to Jeff's driving drum part. Fahrenheit was the band's 6th studio album released in 1986, and it marked a more polished sound compared to their previous album. Till the End features Jeff laying down a tasty groove while cycling through an intricate bass drum pattern that follows the bass line. The single I'll Be Over You went on to become the most popular track though, with Jeff's melodic drumming weaving the perfect backdrop for the beautiful harmonies from his bandmates. By the time the album, the seventh one, rolled around, the band started consciously introducing more thought-provoking lyrics with social commentary.
I think there's 3 tunes, A Home of the Brave, Mashanga, and 1,000 Years, that say something we've been together, and only the children. Yeah. That for 10 years, Lukather has 2 beautiful babies, I have 2 beautiful babies, Mike has a baby, Steve. Yeah, I think as we've matured and we have families and children, when we look at our kids, what we do has a different kind of importance than it did 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Steve Lukather described the album as a period of one-upmanship. New synthesizer sounds and layers were being experimented with. The track Stop Loving You being a great example, with Jeff's trademark groove holding it all together. Pamela, according to David Paich, is obviously influenced by Rosanna. It features an elaborate composition with a horn section, while the rhythm section with Jeff at the center lays down a solid groove. One Toto track that often gets overlooked is Can You Hear What I'm Saying from the Past to Present album. This is a rare example where Jeff likely had a side snare on his kit. Tragically, Jeff passed away during tour rehearsals for the band's 8th album, Kingdom of Desire, in 1992. The track Don't Chain My Heart showcases Jeff's assertive rhythmic timing and interdynamic control. And the drum part for Jake to the Bone is a fusion masterclass in itself. After losing Jeff, the band wasn't sure if they would continue.
Tragically and suddenly, we lost Jeff. Dave and Jeff are best friends. I mean, you know, all of us were, but, you know, I'm looking around the room. Are we going to be able to do this? What should we do? Should we or shouldn't we? We even talked to his parents. Kind of got a blessing from the family. And the big thing was like, who were you going to get to sit in that spot? So a wild card, I had worked with Simon Phillips on some stuff in Japan with Jeff Beck and Carlos Santana, and we thought Simon would be just weird enough. You know, I thought, well, let me call him and see. And as it turns out, I called him. He was on his way to LA anyway.
Well, it was a hell of a surprise, and obviously a real honor to be asked by Steve to come and play in Jeff's place. I didn't know Jeff that well, but every time I did meet him, he was ever so sweet to me. He was always very warm, very friendly, and that's how I remember him.
As a founding member of one of the most iconic and successful rock bands in history, Jeff shaped the music scene for decades to come. Remarkably, though, he continued to pursue session work for some of the most prolific recording artists in the industry throughout this time. Throughout their last years in high school, Jeff and his good friends David Paich and Steve Lukather became some of the most sought-after session musicians in LA.
When we got out of high school, we started immediately doing sessions with people like Seals and Crofts and Steely Dan.
When asked about his approach to session drumming, Jeff gave this piece of advice.
I'll tell you, the basic thing, you're doing a session for the first time, you're walking in, and they start playing and they try to play all their hip chops and all their hip fills, and it turns off some people sometimes, because basically all they want to hear is time. And if you get through the first day where you've laid down good time for them, then you'll get called back, because you're not inhibiting anybody, you're not freaking anybody out, you know what I'm saying?
From the mid-70s up until his passing in 1992, Jeff recorded literally hundreds of records. He played with legends like Sarah Vaughan and Ray Charles, contemporary pop icons like Michael Jackson and Madonna, and in 1980 he contributed to a record that he was particularly proud of called Gaucho. In the self-titled track, Jeff laid down a smooth drum part with buzz rolls perfectly accentuating the track. Boz Scaggs was another artist who often enlisted Jeff's help when he was putting tracks together. In the track Lowdown, he sustains a funky 16th note groove for 5 minutes, throwing in tasty fills and offbeat hi-hat barks along the way. And if you listen closely, you'll hear that Jeff overdubbed the hi-hats to add an extra layer, giving it an even deeper groove. But it didn't stop at Steely Dan and Boz Scaggs. In the late 70s and early 80s, Jeff teamed up with an up-and-coming Diana Ross, and you can hear his drumming on tracks like these. Jeff worked with Alan Toussaint, an influential figure in the New Orleans rhythm and blues scene. And you can hear his unconventional approach on the track Night People.
Night people, hanging out, looking at each other, waiting for something to happen.
And believe it or not, Jeff can also be heard on Pink Floyd's album The Wall. With the band recording on a tight schedule, one of the producers suggested that they reach out to Jeff to record the part. Here's what he tracked on the album.
Mother, do you think she's good enough?
Let's take a closer look at this drum part, paying close attention to the bars of 5, the syncopated rack toms that are thrown in, and also the varied hi-hat openings.
Mother, do you think she's good enough? You think she's dangerous? Tell me.
Jeff also worked with Aretha Franklin in the early 80s, and he was featured on 2 of her albums. The Bee Gees enlisted Jeff's drumming for the 1981 album Living Eyes, among other session drummers like Steve Gadd. Listen to Jeff's dynamics on the hi-hat and fills in the verse section, adding an extra layer to the track. Following this, many of Toto's band members, including Jeff, Steve Lukather, David Paich, and Steve Porcaro, were tasked with production duties on Michael Jackson's Thriller, which went on to become the best-selling album of all time. In reality, Jeff's involvement with the project likely came about by luck. In a 2020 interview, Steve Porcaro explained how it happened.
To be honest, I think the only reason Jeff got the call was because John Robinson was out of town with Rufus. John Robinson was Quincy's go-to drummer at that point. For The Girl Is Mine, which was the first time Jeff played drums for Quincy, they actually had, because I was there, they actually had John Robinson's drums delivered in case they didn't like the way Jeff tuned his drums or something. And of course, though, they loved the way Jeff's drums were tuned, and they adored Jeff and his playing. And
you can hear Jeff's drumming on tracks like Human Nature, which was written by his brother Steve. You can hear Jeff playing a more swung groove on the song The Girl Is Mine.
Every night she walks right in my dreams since I met her from the start. I'm so proud I am the only one who is special in her heart. The girl is mine.
And when it came to the track Beat It, Jeff actually approached this track in an unconventional way, which involved recording his own click track.
Jeff went out and, with his sticks, listened to that, had it cranked to the phones, and he made his own click track. Just the way he wanted to hear it, not necessarily the groove that ended up, which is more straight like this, but he put a little shuffle into it so he could make it swing, make it feel. And he went out there and he did a couple takes. I think the second take was nailed. His time was perfect. It was great.
Jeff was on a roll after his work with Michael Jackson, teaming up with Elton John on his album Jump Up. Listen to Jeff's low-profile yet tasty drum and percussion work on Empty Garden, a tribute to John Lennon. Don Henley of the Eagles also enlisted Jeff's help for his solo career. The track Dirty Laundry is a great example of Jeff's solid timekeeping, accenting shots only where the music calls for it. Though officially uncredited, it's widely recognized that Jeff was also featured on Chicago's best-selling album, Chicago 17. Listening to Stay the Night, you can hear Jeff's feel on the hi-hat and some of his classic drum fills. Jeff's drumming can also be heard on Eric Clapton's album Behind the Sun. His groove and offbeat accents drive the track Forever Man in subtle ways. A huge perk of Jeff's session work was the fact that he got to collaborate with artists he admired. Earth, Wind & Fire is one example, who he worked with on the 1987 record Touch the World. And Jeff continued to team up with the biggest artists in pop music like Celine Dion and Madonna for her 1989 record Like a Prayer, laying down the foundation for the track Cherish with a classic shuffle groove. Jeff would even go on to work with Bruce Springsteen on his iconic track Human Touch in 1992, shortly before his passing. Over the course of 20-odd years, Jeff recorded hundreds of albums across thousands of sessions. It's no exaggeration to say that the sound of mainstream pop and rock drumming in the 1980s was, to a large extent, the sound of Jeff Porcaro. Having worked with such iconic artists over the course of his career, and featuring on an estimated 500 million records sold worldwide, it's absolutely no wonder his legacy endures to this day.
He was so honest within himself and such a giver. Just one of the most amazing little human beings I've ever known in my life, man.
As everybody has said, he was one of the most generous giving people I ever met, and when he came to a session, he would light up the room.
Jeff Porcaro's passion can be felt in every beat, every groove, and every rhythm he laid down. His drumming was characterized by its precision, versatility, and soulful expression, setting a standard of excellence that few have been able to match. Whether driving the rhythm forward with relentless energy or laying back with subtle finesse, Jeff Porcaro's playing always struck the perfect balance between power and nuance. There was something special about Jeff's drumming, with Bruce Springsteen recalling, "He had a tremendous beauty to his playing that went beyond craft and precision into the realm of the spirit. It was with that spirit that he graced and blessed my music. He was a soul man." This fact wasn't lost on the great Vinnie Colaiuta either.
Jeff was like one of a kind, man. He had the greatest time feel. It can be imitated, but never exactly. Like, you can play Rosanna really well, but the way he did it is just on this other plane that it just belongs to him. It only belongs to him.
But Jeff's legacy extends far beyond his drumming. In the book It's About Time, written by Robin Flans, legendary guitarist Peter Frampton recalls, "Playing in the studio with him was always a great adventure. He would invent stuff no one else would come up with, making the song feel amazing. Yes, he was one of the best drummers ever, but it was his humility and caring for those around him that made him one of the best people ever, too." After his passing in 1992, only aged 38, a tribute concert was held in Jeff's honor with friends from the music scene performing and paying their respects.
This is a guy who gave with incredible generosity to everybody.
As everybody has said, he was one of the most generous giving people I ever met, and when he came to a session, he would light up the room with enthusiasm.
One of the best drummers in the world, and definitely the groove master.
Jeff's been a touchstone for me. We're all here tonight because of Jeff, and Jeff is here tonight because of us.
He was the best friend I ever had, and if it wasn't for him, I'd probably be selling French fries at McDonald's, you know what I mean? Taught me everything about music and a lot about life.
The thing about him is he was so enthusiastic. He was kind of a lightning rod at sessions, and his personality came out in his drumming, but he had that real poppin' sound that was unmistakably him, you know.
Jeff also tried to give back to the drum community whenever he could. Whenever we were touring, he'd always manage to put some kind of clinic together for us to play at. He went out of his way to meet young drummers and help them in his spare time. That's really unusual because it's very tiring on the road. Many of his peers have since shared their memories, but Vinny Colaiuta's in particular speaks to his special character.
I mean, he would do things like, one time I was playing at the Big Potato, and we were playing, and I closed my eyes, and I think maybe I had sweat in my eyes or something, and my hi-hat broke. And I opened my eyes, and all of a sudden, he must have somehow jumped. I don't know how he got there, but I looked down, and he's on the floor, looking up at me, laughing, fixing my hi-hat while I'm playing, laughing. Like he threw it over there. To him, it was like a big joke, you know? But it was, I mean, he was just that kind of guy.
In recent years, Toto's band members have gone back and revisited old recordings, uncovering some deep cuts that feature Jeff's drumming. Ultimately, his legacy lives on through all the records he made over the years.
You know, we were remastering all the new albums. You know, we listened from the first album, every track in chronological order up until all the end of the Sony records in the mastering room. And like, we hadn't ever sat in a room ever and done that. And you know, it brought us to absolute laughter and brought us to a lot of tears because of missing our brothers who aren't here. All these years later, man, going on 26 years, Jeff's been gone, man, you know, but his playing is every bit as good.
Drummers around the world continue to study and try to replicate Jeff's dynamic and intricate drumming. The fact that so many drum covers, Rosanna in particular, are uploaded to social media is a testament to Jeff's lasting legacy. On recent tours, Toto have dedicated the song Wings of Time off the album Kingdom of Desire to Jeff, and now his brother Mike as well, who passed away in 2015.
We're gonna play an old song here for you. This is a special song to us because it's a dedication song. The first dedication goes to our dear brother Jeff, who's always with us in our hearts and in our playing. And our second brother back home in Los Angeles, Michael Porcaro. This one's for him too. Come on.
Shortly after Jeff's passing, his brother Mike joked, Jeff had a take-charge attitude with rhythm, an intense gift for moving things along in the music he touched and in his life. It's just like Jeff to go ahead of everyone just to make sure it was cool up there for the rest of us. He loved music through and through, using the drums as a vehicle to express his unique personality. Though simple, this one quote of Jeff's is powerful and words for any drummer to live by. The best thing for drummers is to have fun. Even if you're falling apart inside, you have a great outlet to express your emotions, whether you realize it or not. All right, there you have it, the genius of Jeff Porcaro. Jeff lived and breathed all things drums and music, expressing his personality in creative and unique ways. Gone too soon but never forgotten, Jeff definitely left his mark on music history. Now, before you go, make sure you leave a comment below and let me know one thing that you've learned from listening to Jeff's drumming. Also, stay tuned for the next episode in the Genius Of series, which is on the heavy metal pioneer Bill Ward from the band Black Sabbath. And lastly, don't forget about all the Toto transcriptions and drumless tracks. There's a link down below, drumeo.com/trial, and you can get started with Drumeo free for 7 days. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.